What's up, Fromies? Welcome back to First Rounds on Me, a podcast about dating, relationships, love, sex, and everything in between. I'm your host, Steve, along with my co-host and First Rounds on Me founder and CEO, Joe Feminella. Today's guests are Jaydi Samuels Kuba and Lauren Rosenberg, aka the Love Agents of Hollywood. They're founders of LJM, an exclusive matchmaking service which helps eligible bachelors and bachelorettes determine who is the best fit for them. They believe dating should be fun, something we all seem to forget. Jaydi and Lauren, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Was that from our website?
That was from your website, yeah.
We wrote that so long ago. I was like, it kind of sounds familiar. And I feel like we do so much more. Then we need to beef up our website.
Let's
I like
go
give
back.
a more detailed
full
description.
Full rewrite.
I think it was great. So yeah, I mean, I know you've probably told the story a million times, but do you want to give our new audience like a quick backstory on how you guys started together?
Sure. I feel like you tell it really well.
Okay. All right then. Okay. So I had heard through the grapevine that there was a Hollywood assistant who had a side hustle as a matchmaker. And I was like, wait, it's like an actual side hustle? Like she's making money doing this while working as an assistant? And I was like, why didn't I think of that? Because I was setting up my friends very successfully. I would introduce people and they would inevitably hook up as well. So it was both casual and I was like actually setting people up intentionally. And I had, I still have a group for women that work in the industry as industry executives. And we have an event called Table for Eight, which is kind of like a matchmaking event for women in the industry, where we will curate tables for like 100 women, but we select where everyone is going, like 8 to a table.
Okay.
And we curate it. And because I was in charge of figuring out who would be match made at each table, like let's say there's 10 different tables, 8 women at each, I made sure that Jaydi was at my table because I had this idea of teaming up with her. I didn't even know her personally, but I had this like grand scheme of us working together.
How'd you know about her?
How'd I know about her?
Yeah.
Because I had heard through the grapevine. I think through
My reputation preceded.
Oh, so
Yeah.
wait, were you the matchmaker that you were referring to in the beginning of the story?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Was I not clear? Sometimes I'm not the best.
Maybe I'm just stupid.
Storyteller.
I think it's been a long week for all of us.
Okay, all
Or at
right.
least
It's
for
the
me.
rain. I
At least
blame
for
the
me.
rain.
So
You heard through the grapevine that she was matchmaking people,
Yes.
and you were like,
yes,
that's
as
crazy.
a side hustle. I was like,
Which-
that's crazy. Why didn't I ever think of that?
I'll say you're the first person that works in Hollywood who has had time for a side hustle from everything I've heard. Especially
I
as
feel
an
like
assistant.
everyone in Hollywood does like 10 different things.
Really? I feel like
Yeah,
everyone I
like,
know is so busy, but you would know better
I
than me.
act, I write, I direct, I edit. Like normally everyone is a multi-hyphenate.
Fair,
and
I guess
You know
so.
what I
But
mean?
yeah.
I think maybe back then it wasn't as usual, and especially for a woman.
Well,
to
and
be
also
doing
to
it
do
too.
something that was unrelated to, or seemingly
Unrelated,
unrelated
yeah.
to entertainment.
Usually side hustles are somewhat related to what we do in the industry, or it's like real estate or something like that. Like
Right,
this was
right.
like totally unexpected. Like I just didn't even like think about it. She's a great macro. I think her and I were just talking about this. But anyway, I had this grand scheme. She had no idea. I made sure that she was at my table.
She tricked me.
I did trick her a little bit. I made sure she was at my table so I could become friends with her and find out more about her side hustle and explain to her why we would be a good fit. And I completely forgot about this idea that I had, but then we ended up sitting next to each other, like across from each other. And then I think it just organically developed. We were friends first, but then quickly became
But what was the
business
original
partners.
event that you wanted to sit next to her at? Like this 8.
Yeah, this table for 8
Table
that
for eight.
Lauren helped
So,
curate.
Yes. Fill in the blanks. She's the better storyteller.
No. So, no, you kicked that off wonderfully. Don't
was
sell yourself
wonderfully.
short.
You're kind of like Hitch, though, where you kind of see like an opportunity and you make it happen.
Oh,
You
yeah,
bring it
that
to
is
life.
Lauren all the way.
Yeah.
And she matchmakes in so many areas of her life. You know, she helps people find jobs and she's just so great that way. So the women's group she mentioned, I feel like you should say the
Hollywood,
name.
yeah, it's called Hollywood West Women Executive Stronger.
But now that's
Together.
not an actual event to connect them with men. It's just an
No,
event
no,
for
this
them.
is
Connect
and
women.
by the way, I know
But
Matchmake
like
women
with women.
with
Exactly.
women in the
Oh.
industry to
Networking.
make connections, networking.
Oh, but
yes.
not like romantically.
Not romantically.
Gotcha.
I
Yeah,
see where
okay.
the confusion is
I thought
now.
that she
I'm a
was
confusing
like.
person.
We've
I
been
thought you had it all
able
figured
to
out. You're like, I
identify.
have 80 people here matchmaking them, and I was like, well, why do you need?
Although that would be a fun event too. We should get on that one.
Sure.
That's an unscripted thing in itself.
Oh yeah.
That's a whole different story. That was like my whole day to day. Anyway, okay. So we sat next, like across from each other, and I was like, oh my gosh, my grand scheme. And then I was reminded of it. And then one thing led to another, and our friendship organically developed. And I just started sending her single women and, you know, some single men as well. And I basically forced her to get into business with me because I was sending her so
It's
many.
true.
I gave her no
I-
choice.
Yeah, I had put a lot of time and energy into getting this off the ground. As Lauren mentioned, I was an executive assistant in the industry at the time. And so I was very, very proud of this side hustle that people were starting to, you know, clearly hear about. And so the idea of working with anyone, I was like, I don't need anyone. I'm doing so great on my own. Why do I need help? But then it turned out Lauren, after I met her at this event, she started referring what essentially became half my database. And so I kept saying no, but she gave me all these reasons to say yes. And at first, it was very slow because I was so reluctant. Like, okay, maybe if you make a referral, then that person, maybe I'll give you commission off of that individual. And then it became so many people. I was like, fine, you know, it feels like because you have an interest in matchmaking, why don't you at least sit in on we call them intake interview sessions where we get to know the client and who they are, what they're looking for. Why don't you sit in on those so you can more effectively matchmake them? But then it occurred to me, you know, wait, but she doesn't know who's in my database. How will she know who we can match them with? So, okay, why don't you sit in on those sessions too? So she did that. And then truly, like, just was referring. I mean, Lauren knows everyone. I'm shocked she doesn't already know the three of you in this room.
Now I do.
Right? So she's a people collector in the best way possible. And they're all like, she's not the kind of person who will forget your name and face. Like, she will meet you now and
It's
in
a
10
blessing
years
and
from
a
now.
curse.
So she's just
truly
really
is.
wonderful that way. And so she was just a great person to naturally go into business with. And, you know, I'm sure you'll see here by the end of all of this, like, we are very yin and yang. We don't just, you know, the blonde, the brunette, like it's not just an appearance, but
it's deep.
Yeah, it definitely, it runs deep.
Well, yeah, I've heard that you are a little more kind of analytical with your approach, and you're a little more on the gut. Kind of, is that right?
did
Did
your
I hear
homework.
correctly? Yeah. Well, just from the
You
yin
read
and
the
yang,
website.
yin and yang perspective.
Yeah, I think my gut has always led me in my personal life, dating wise and career wise. I've heard of this thing on TikTok called Lucky Girl Syndrome.
Oh,
and I feel like, have you heard of it?
I have, yeah.
I just read an article about it at 4 a.m. in the morning. So by no means an expert in this, but I feel like my gut instinct kind of lines up with this Lucky Girl Syndrome.
What's
that
the
I
lucky
read.
girl syndrome?
Do you know what it's about?
I do. It was a
Okay,
while
you
ago
explain
that I
it.
saw this on TikTok. So if I'm getting this wrong, let me know. But from my recollection,
Yeah.
I think throughout the day, start noticing the positive things that, you know, that you may have overlooked. So for example, you were trying to find Lauren's drink and you went to 3 different locations to do so, right? Which I'm sure we'll get into at some point. But maybe when you were at the 3rd location, you found a penny on the floor. I don't know. This is a terrible example, but
No, it's not.
you're-
I actually pick up pennies on heads whenever I see one, and I make a wish.
Oh,
You're
Look at
lucky.
that.
You're a
And then
lucky boy syndrome.
and I flip it to make sure that someone else gets to pick it up next.
Aw.
That's my
you're
whole thing.
you're paying it forward.
Yeah, I pick up every penny on heads.
That's very
make a wish,
considerate of you.
like a wish, like I'm like manifesting my energy for the day.
Yeah.
It's usually the same thing all the time, and then I'm like, I hope someone else picks this up and they can do the same.
Well,
Yeah.
if that bleeds over into other areas of your life, then your fiance is a lucky lady.
Oh, she is, and he's a lucky guy too. But I actually pick up every penny on tails and flip it over for the next person. Yeah.
They're gonna say I pick up every penny and I keep it so no one else can.
No,
have.
I set it up. for
That's
that next
actually
person.
more noble.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I can read right here. The lucky girl syndrome is just the latest interpretation of the law of assumption, which proposes that when we act as though what we want is already our reality and believe it, then we're rewarded with the things we most desire in life.
That
it's-
is definitely a more effective way of expressing it. But yeah, the idea that you start to notice these positive lucky things in your life, and because you do that, it will start to self manifest.
Sure.
I strongly believe that.
Yeah.
Like, strongly. It's like, we always talk about it. There's two ways to look at everything. And if you look at something positively, that just sets you up to think about everything positively and like
Exactly.
just build on it. But
Yeah, I was having this conversation with a single friend yesterday about signs. She had recently.
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
You do? Okay, don't say. But she had recently gotten out of something, and then like a mirror broke in her house, and she took it as a sign that maybe she shouldn't have gotten out of this relationship. And I was like, what if, the mirror broke because it was shattering, this old version of you, and now you're this new, strong, empowered woman. You can look at any sign as positive or negative, and it's just all, a matter of the lens you see it through. And so that's something, that we try to work with our clients with too, which is, just attitude really goes a long way.
that's awesome.
Yeah, even if you're on a date and it's not a match, you need to make the most of it. Because
Completely agree.
It's myopic to just be like this, I'm never going to see this guy again. What do I care? But what if meeting him leads you down a certain path to your person or maybe to another job? Also, it's like maybe have a good night, have some free drinks. Like I actually got my first job in Hollywood from Jaydi, from someone I didn't even meet, but we were like chatting on Jaydi, and he offered to send my resume to Paradigm, and then I ended up in the mailroom. And I could have just been like, this guy on Jaydi doesn't have a picture. I'm not interested. I'm not even going to talk to him. But I guess I humored him enough to chat with him, and then he offered to help me.
Yeah.
I think that's exactly right. I think just going on a date, I think people get stuck with the pressure of, I need to fall in love, right? I need to be in a relationship with this person I'm going on a date with. Instead of just going and saying, I hope I have a good night. Whatever that is, it is. And like every date I've ever went on with somebody, only obviously one worked where I ended up with the person, but I remember all those people and kind of in a positive way, right? Whether we became friends or I helped them with something or they helped me with something, but just going or learning like, okay, this is what I don't want when I meet someone next. Just going is the key.
Right.
Yeah. And
No, I wait. So how did you and your fiance meet?
Yes, I mean, I tell this story. He's probably sick of it.
Sorry.
I love this story. It's my favorite.
I
gotta hear
actually
it
love it.
again.
I like telling it, but we met the same way that First Rounds on Me was made for, right? So while I was making it, I still use Hinge, and I was a big fan of Hinge. And she had liked me, and I straight up told her, like, not in a.
You're direct.
Yeah, I was like, listen, like, I hate being on these apps. It's so overwhelming. I'm really interested in you. Would you like to meet me for a date? And she said, yeah, I'm free tonight or Wednesday. And I said, okay, I'll see you tonight. What kind of stuff do you like? She was like, I'm a vegan. I Googled vegan spots. I was like, all right, is this place good? I'll see you here at 8 o'clock. She said, sure.
Was it Crossroads?
Crossroads is one of her favorites. So she has top three are Via Carota, Crossroads, and Gracias Madre is ours because that's where our first date was.
Aw.
Yeah.
Wait, what's the first one?
Via Carota.
I've never.
I don't know that one
Yeah,
either.
It's
I
an
need to check it out.
Italian spot on
okay.
Santa Monica, but I mean,
In West Hollywood.
yeah.
Okay.
It's okay.
But it's her favorite.
yeah, so that's
So that's
how
all
we
that
met.
matters.
Non-vegan. I'm assuming you're not vegan.
Well, even regular Italian restaurants, when you grow up in an Italian household, it's tough to like get that experience at a restaurant.
Sure.
And then making it vegan also, it's like, vegans do a lot of food very well, but
Yeah,
just Italian
food
me,
without
it's like
cheese.
my bar is so high that it's just not going to get there.
Yeah, Lauren, I wanted to circle back. When you said, go out, get some free drinks, I was just wondering, like, where are these free drinks at? Like, where can we go get them?
I was going
You
to
mean as a man?
Oh, I thought it was for everybody.
She meant the women.
Oh, I see.
We're really gender
Okay,
stereotyping at our
okay,
company.
yeah.
Like that's what we're about.
I
So
got you.
Women get me free drinks
So
too.
do you tell the clients like, hey, if you're going out with a guy, the drinks are free. Make sure he pays for those drinks.
our business model is structured as such. So the men don't pay to work with our company. It's just the women. And it's also very different because, like Lauren said, it's a side hustle for us. It's more about we're the equivalent of like a year of Match.com. It's not like comparable to other matchmaking companies that are $10,000 for guaranteed 8 matches, or whatever the different tiers are. It's pretty much the same. We have like 2 levels, but for the most part, it's like between. I'm trying to think what our latest rates are, but it's no more than $500 for like 6 months of matchmaking. So,
and that's just as many dates as you guys set up for them?
Yeah, we're very quality over quantity. The goal is always to nail it on the first try. And of course, that's not always realistic. It can be a process as you get to know people, as you get to, figure out we call it a dating persona. What are they like on the date? It could be very different than they present to us. So it can be a process to figure out who someone is and what they're looking for. But at the end of the day, for us, it's definitely, I think the moment you guarantee a number of matches, there's significant pressure to, in some ways, compromise the integrity of what you're doing as a matchmaker, because the chances that you have that many people in your database that fit what that person wants and someone's looking for them back, it's slim. So we have people sign up for a period of time instead of a number, and everyone's referred to us. They know, that we've had success. So there's a bit of trust and comfort in that. And they know our hearts are in the right place. But we let people know up front, it's all about the quality, not the quantity. If we don't nail it on the first try, maybe you'll meet like 3 or 4 people in 6 months through us. Maybe it's 8. There's no guarantee, but the only guarantee is that we are trying our absolute hardest to find someone wonderful for you.
I think that's great, because just hearing you say that, me thinking if I knew that I had 10 dates in the year or 10 matches in the year, I would look forward to all 10 and not really care about the 1, 2, and 3, because I'm like, I'm excited about all of them.
Yeah, it's like this swiping mentality.
Right.
Is there something better out there? But, as a matchmaker, like, we have experimented with all different business models, when we first got started. And when you do that, like, let's say Julia signs up for 6 months and she's told she gets 5 matches through you. If we only had 2 and then we're like, oh my gosh, but she paid us, what do we do about these other 3? Back in the day, we used to, this studio is right by the Grove. We used to go to the Grove, try to like walk up to guys who we didn't know anything about. We had these like really just like cute little business cards, and the two of us would do our thing and talk to a guy, which when you're in a relationship, the last thing, now we're both married, but like I have no interest in like not hitting on, but like talking to just single guys to convince them, like come meet other single women through us. It's just the recruiting aspect is not something that we're as interested in for even liability purposes. We want to know that when we introduce someone we work with to someone else, like there is someone, either we can vouch for them personally, or we know someone who knows someone who knows someone who can vouch for them. So there is a little bit of exclusivity, but there's also, most importantly, we feel like we can go to sleep at night knowing, a client of ours, is very unlikely to get like sexually assaulted or something if they go on a date with someone we introduce them to. So the last thing we want is to be like, oh my gosh, this person has 3 more matches. Let's go to Erewhon and, hand out our business cards. And
should have gone there first.
It's probably very more likely to get assaulted on set for a woman.
Oh yeah, that too.
But how did you start?
Oh, sure. So at the time I was working for Seth MacFarlane. The matchmaking had nothing to do with him. I just happened to be his assistant. And, I wish I could say there's so much free time. I didn't know what to do with myself, but there was not any free time. But that being said, I noticed while working at Family Guy, there were really quality singles. And I didn't understand why they were all, the ones who were single. There were so many women in particular who were just the most beautiful, sweet, intelligent, funny people who were like in their 30s and 40s and single. And I knew that wasn't, they would come to work sometimes crying because they had a bad date and I'm going to be alone forever. And these were people who wanted children. And I just didn't understand it. I was fresh out of college. I was, like 22 years old. I was a production assistant when I first started there, and, just slowly worked my way up. I eventually, I left there as a writer. But at the time with the matchmaking, I was Seth's assistant. And so that was when it really, so many people had been whispering in my ear, like, because I had set up people for fun. It gets really, really, I'll circle back to all that. But set people up for fun, just like in college or.
Well, I'm saying
like how did you do it? Like the mechanics?
Well, like say all these women in the industry, right? Say there's 10 women, right? How did you, like you said, find the men for them to meet in the beginning?
So it gets really incestuous when you're setting up friends. So what I did was I started telling people, I was spreading the word. Hey, it's how Lauren eventually heard about it. Like, hey, just tell people this is what I'm doing. And I did want it to be very grassroots word of mouth. So I had that level of trust with people, and I had never done it professionally. So, also it's not like I could have advertised. Plenty of people do that when they don't have anything to back it up with. But it's like, I'm just going to let people know I'm slowly, exploring this area. And I had some success setting up people, just friends and things like that. And so I figured I'll spread the word. I'll say this is what I'm doing. Because of who I had surrounded myself with, most of the referrals were in the entertainment industry, and it just slowly grew from there. So it was men, women, and business model wise, I started charging both because why not, right? It makes sense. You charge the men, you charge the women, straight couples, LGBTQ plus, like whoever. It makes sense to just charge everyone the same thing. And what I found, and this is a terrible thing to say, so I apologize to anyone who is the exception, because there's outliers. But the guys that were interested in working with me back then were just really socially awkward, not conventionally attractive, not the kind of people that the women I was working with who were paying me were actively seeking. And so that is also, and this wasn't even your question, but
no, but this is like I kind of wanted to understand it all, but this is
so I experimented with different business models, and I had to kind of change my rates. And so first I lowered it for men. Then I was like, you know what, men, I have brothers, and men are treating on dates all the time. So if they're being gentlemen and they're picking up the tab on a date, why do they also have to pay for a matchmaking service? Maybe I can get better guys if I say, hey, give me a chance to take a crack at it or two. It's free. Like, it won't bruise your ego. It won't cost you anything other than what you're already doing, which is treating someone when they take you out on a date. So let me do my thing. And sure enough, like, word spread. And I think that's also the trick with other companies that charge. It's difficult to, I guess, have the model we do, because how do you pay employees? How do you pay your mortgage on, on the building that you're in or whatever? It's if you have a brick and mortar. But for us, because it's a side hustle, we can kind of get away with, we're not going to charge half the people we work with, right? Stupid for business.
But is it? Because you're making the overall experience of your business better.
Yeah. So I was going to say stupid for business on first impression, right? When you first look at it. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's exactly what you're saying. It was better overall, because why would anyone want to work with us if we can't match them with the people they're looking for? So it just really allowed us it gave us the flexibility to run the company in the way that we wanted. Or I should say, before even, when we started working together, was that the model?
We were still charging both when we started working
together.
I think then we changed it once we started. Once we were like working together, a year or so.
But that was the realization that we came to, was we just weren't working with the men that we wanted to work with on behalf of the women.
Like we want men that don't need to pay for a matchmaking service.
Not
basically.
that the women need to pay.
The women are willing to be more vulnerable.
I think,
pay for
it's
something.
just they are more, and again, here's us gender stereotyping. They're more willing to put aside their egos and acknowledge the fact that dating in a city like LA is really difficult. And so, if there's two people that could step in and with an assist, why not? Whereas with guys, it's like, well, I'm getting chicks on my own, Why do I need to have someone help me?
And I think also, if you use a business model to make money, it's just a business model to make money, and you have a business model to help people fall in love. So it's like you could choose which one you want, right? Like if you want to make money, sure, have men, pay. But if you are in the business to be in the business of believing in it, then the experience is better, and just your goal is to find love and make less money. Who cares?
Right. And I truly, from the bottom of my heart, and this is, we have great relationships with matchmakers all over the country, internationally even, and I respect those business models, and we get a lot of flack within the community for the business model we have, but we stand behind it, and we really think it's what's best for our clients, because it does allow us to lead with love. And I think everyone goes into this business for the right reasons. No one would open a matchmaking company if they weren't like hopeless romantics that just wanted to help people find love and those connections. But then all of a sudden, when you start too big too soon, and you have employees and you have all these expenses, you have to justify these like exorbitant rates that you're charging people. And some people are really wonderful at it and they make it work, and, that works for them. But for us, it's, we really it's a passion, and we don't ever want to, I don't know. I just think it works for us.
Well, yeah. And then every once in a while, a woman is like, well, the guys don't pay. That seems unfair. But I think it's also unfair to ask, guys to cave into this gender stereotype every single time of paying.
You also became friends with that guy who made the game book, right?
Yeah.
And you were saying that you go to some of his events, and it's these guys who need like
Lee Strauss,
social help, right?
that guy?
What
Is it Lee Strauss?
Not Neil Strauss. He's in
Or
his
Neil
book.
Strauss.
Yeah, he's in Neil's book. His name's
Oh,
Owen
which
Cook.
guy? Which one was he?
In the book, Tyler Durden.
Oh, okay.
He's become much more of like a
think I've
self-help
heard of him.
coach. Yeah.
So
But what was his? Oh, sorry.
you go.
I just love that book, but it was so long ago that I read it. In college, a guy friend of mine was like, "You need to read this so you know when guys are trying to like do these tricks on you."
Yeah.
Peacock.
Yeah, exactly. But there were different like schools of thought, right? Like peacocking. There's like what neuro-linguistic programming and
Negging. That's where negging.
Wait, did I just say
Yeah.
Lee Strauss? Isn't that the Levi person?
Yes.
yeah,
Neil Strauss.
it's Neil Strauss, who I love
He's
his
a great writer. Yeah.
podcast is amazing.
Yeah, he's
too.
great.
Yeah. So Owen, what's his like camp of kinds of?
Well, he's in their world. So everything that like he kind of like grew up on all their practices. So everything that's in that book, he kind of like taught and perfected. But he's since like gone on to be like a general like business coach and self-help kind of guy. And
Gotcha.
yeah, he's really grown and expanded from like that whole world. Yeah.
But my point was that, like,
so-
you said that you've gone to events and the guys who pay for his service are a little socially awkward, and it's like the women you don't want them going out with those guys per se, because it's not going to be the best experience for them. Correct me if I'm wrong.
To be clear too, though, like those guys, I'm sure are really quality men that we would love to find their wives. But just generally speaking, a lot of the women we work with, they're maybe looking for those exact guys maybe in a couple years from now when they have more confidence or something.
Right.
So it's not like there's something wrong with them. It's
No,
just,
exactly, not at all.
Yeah, it's just so I don't want to say like the caliber of the guy, but it's maybe where the stage of life that they're at, they're not quite at the point where they're ready for their person yet.
Yeah, they're still figuring
In every
themselves
way.
out and kind of like, I think a lot of them have like one or two areas of their life mastered. Like a lot of them are super smart with like computers, and programming, and then they just don't have like the social aspect, or they don't really have, maybe they're just like, I mean, a lot of the guys are very like frail and like they haven't been outside a lot. Like I'm just stating the facts here. Again, not trying to be
Frail.
Yeah, like they're just like they
Like
look
you can if you blow on them, they'll fall over.
kind
Kind
of,
of
yeah,
thing.
they look like they've just been behind a computer for 16 hours a day for the past 10
maybe
years.
they-
Sounds like my
have
husband,
been.
but he's not frail.
Right, but you know what I'm saying. I mean, look, we're all trying to be politically correct here, and they're all good guys for the most part. But being serious, if I'm saying, you see a strapping gentleman that goes to the gym a lot and eats a lot of red meat. Sorry for all the vegans out there, and takes care of himself. These guys are not that, essentially, and not that I'm saying that's one of many qualities. A lot of these guys have a lot of money too. That's why they can afford to hire coaches and take a lot of these programs, is because they have, like I said, maybe their career and the financials are kind of in a good place, but their social skills aren't there, or they don't really know how to be in a relationship. And that would take, maybe, and this is what I was going to go back to before, where you're saying like go on the date. And I always find every single time I go on a date, at the very least, I learn about myself. Even if I don't learn, usually I learn about the other person, I learn about what I want, what I don't want, but always learn about myself. I think a lot of these guys are, far behind the eight ball in the sense where like they need to go on a bunch of dates, or at least meet a bunch of women. They don't really know how to talk to people, and then also talk to women specifically. So we're all kind of saying the same thing. I'll just be a little more blunt about it.
Well, it's like when you're younger, what your experiences are really shape who you become, and you see people who are like absolutely funny, whether it's male or female. A lot of times those are people that weren't good at sports, and they had to figure out, okay, well, that's not going to be the way I meet people or what I'm going to be known for. And then they practice humor more than maybe a jock would. And this is more stereotyping, but that's kind of how things work in terms of how personalities are formed. And so a lot of those guys, maybe they are not great at talking to women, but they've become very successful, or like they've figured out their thing and gotten great at it, but this is the area that they have not quite gotten to where they want. And so, it's great that there's date coaches and matchmakers and people that can help them.
But I think more women need to be open to those men that are behind the computer for 16 hours. You always know where they're at.
Very
you
true.
always know their
Very true.
whereabouts.
You say this about editors. Lauren says this all the time.
Editors
about
are the
What's
best
an editor
hun-
exactly?
Like
I know what an editor is.
Any editor that is working
who edits your
consistently.
That's
Someone
a
has to
great
cut it
question.
together, right?
We have many different people that I don't even know.
But he's a married man.
Of course
Joey,
he is.
not
So
Joey.
the editor is Mary.
love
Of
it.
Exactly.
course.
There you go.
Of course.
But-
Get
Lauren
them-
has some
get them when
great
you
theories,
can.
by the way.
Get them when you can.
And-
if there's like, if you're in your 20s and you find an editor of similar age, go on a date with him, snatch him up.
Well, to be
But yeah,
clear,
TV
too,
film editors.
He's
That's
gonna
what I
love
was
this,
talking
our
about.
editor.
But also could be podcast editor.
Well, to be clear, also like not that someone who goes to the gym and does those things makes a good person to be with either. I'm just
Right.
saying like everyone has like multiple qualities they need to work on. So
But they're probably more comfortable going up and approaching a woman.
sure, generally speaking, I would 100%.
Or man,
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely. One thing I want to touch on before I forget is you talked a lot about vetting because everyone has mutual friends or connections. Do you have any advice for people that aren't using a service, that are using a lot, let's say our app or dating apps in general, how to be safe either on the apps or with dating in general? Do you have any general tips?
I mean, I go back to the gut instincts. I think you need to follow your gut and really listen to it. I'm not saying like not be open. And I don't know. When I was dating, I think I just had a better picker or pecker, so to speak. And like there are some.
I had to think about that one.
Is it pecker or picker?
Definitely, I hope it's not pecker. But you should clarify for everyone. Not that there'd be anything wrong if it were pecker.
My female, the equivalent of a female pecker, the female pecker, not to say I didn't go out with what is now considered fuckboys, but, there are some women who come to us and they're like, I need a guy who's like gainfully employed. I'm like, how are these women going out with guys that aren't gainfully employed? I mean, that's something simple that you can parse out when you're meeting somebody.
Because a lot of times it's like a hot bartender or like a tattoo artist or
Oh,
something. And
so
no
they go for
offense
the
to those
bad
people, but
guys?
yeah, just someone that seems fun and exciting
Yeah.
and like,
But
and then they get surprised when it doesn't work out.
But I think there's a way to figure There's a right.
Sounds like
Oh my
you're
God.
talking
I'm
about
talking
someone
about
specific.
gainfully employed. Like,
Yeah, no, you're so right. Like, I don't know why I keep going for these bad boys. But I just would listen to my gut a lot. And if, like, people say dating is very hard, and I get it to an extent, but maybe I would just always see the silver lining in a date. And I think that's also important, just going back to that. And I think another hot tip, I would say, if you're really serious about finding somebody, like, let's say your gut instincts are all out of whack. You're like, Lauren, I don't have a good female pecker. What do I do? I
It's
would
like fetch. We're making it happen.
okay, this is a hot take. I would say if you are really serious, I would not travel as much if you can. Because I think one of the reasons why I did find success when I was dating, when I was single, is because I wasn't always gallivanting all over the world, unavailable. Momentum is so important when it comes to dating. And I think, Jaydi likes to say, like, oh, like if you're out traveling for 2 weeks and you meet somebody, you'll be excited to see them when you get back, and vice versa. But I think that typically that momentum can be deflated. Mm-hmm. Maybe they'll meet someone else, especially with limitless options. So I think the fact that I organically just don't like traveling kind of helped me build momentum, at least with my...
But were you looking specifically for someone? Like, was it like, okay, this momentum is going to be, I'm going to do this.
Oh,
and
yes.
not
For
stop.
Lauren.
Wait, what?
Yeah. Didn't you, so Matt is her husband, didn't you schedule a date during 1 week, a date a night? And he was like the last date that you
Yeah,
scheduled?
so I had exhausted Jaydi. That was like my primary source of meeting someone, which is a little bit more serious than, let's say, Tinder. Like,
this is also before swiping culture.
This was like at the cusp of swiping culture, and I think Match.com was a little bit more serious, but it was slim pickings. But I found like the 5 good guys that were on there, at least for me, according to the female pecker, and I lined up 5 dates in a row, 4 or 5, and my husband was the last date, and we ended up together. I did eventually get out of him that he had a date scheduled after he met me, which he kept on the books, which I
did as well.
which I really respect. Like,
yeah,
if
we
it's
wish
already on
more
the
guys
book,
would do that when we schedule dates.
yeah, it's like if it's on the books, like, go for it. Like, because every time someone's like, "Oh, I met somebody.
I met the love of my life. At
I need
a
to
party
take the date off the
yesterday. Like,
books."
can't go on the date tomorrow. And then 2 weeks later.
100% of the time, it
Yes.
never works out.
And very quickly.
And they come back to us like 3 days later, like, actually, is that person available? I'm like, let me see if they're still interested in meeting you. You canceled day of. But yeah, I mean, I guess I kind of treated it like a business, but I also was just very determined.
It is a job.
To me, I was
It's a lot of
determined to
free
make
drinks, yeah.
I was determined to make Match.com work because I was like, there's only 5 guys on here, so I got to meet them all.
So when you did these 5 dates in 5 days, was it pretty much like you connected and you set up a date right away, like how our app works, or was it like you vetted them on the app and became a long process to actually set the dates up?
Okay, this was like 8-9 years ago, but it was not a long process. I probably organized.
So you created First Rounds on Me before we created First Rounds on Me.
Basically. Like I like to take it off the app as soon as possible. And if the guy knows what they're doing, they're taking it off the app. You got to number close. You got to
clip that.
But this is why you created the app, right? It was because there were people like Lauren or a lot of people like Lauren. And back when I was single, same thing. It was like, what is the point of talking so much before you meet only to discover there's no attraction, or to have, I remember back in the day, like we used to talk like on the phone for hours, and it's like, why are we having these intimate conversations? I don't even know if I like you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
and I'm not saying like take it off the app. I'm like meet in person, like exchange
right.
numbers,
No, we
emails.
like taking off the app is perfect verbiage, but
yeah,
it's funny because 70% of people who use dating apps today are dissatisfied with dating apps, but they're not going to get off of them because dating apps have become social media. Like you have to be on the dating app. That's how you connect. And the apps themselves have formed into more of a tool to keep you on there than a tool to like actually help you date. Like I would say Tinder is like Instagram now. Like Tinder does not give a shit if you connect with somebody. They care about, are you going to stay on our platform? How can we keep you on our platform? How can we make it shiny that you just stay here? They don't care. It's like the new social media.
Yeah, they're incentivized to keep you on there, not to actually match you.
That's true. Although if you meet someone through Tinder, that's great advertisement for them, for you to then have all your friends. No, but I'm saying word of mouth. Like, oh, how did you meet so and so? And you're like, I met her through Tinder. Maybe your guy friends who weren't on Tinder are more likely to go check out Tinder, or But so yes and no, because I definitely give a lot of pep talks, and I still think that your dating app is superior, in terms of philosophy. No, really. We were talking about this on the way here on the phone. Just the idea of getting off the apps as quickly as possible is the goal. And hopefully that's achieved through your app. But the apps existing, I think, is important because, Steve, you're single, right? Mm-hmm. So there is a woman out there who has been waiting her entire life for you to find her, or for her to find you. No, seriously.
Yeah, no.
I like it.
Right? So she's been waiting her whole life. She's like, where the hell's Steve? And
where is
if
he?
Steve's not on the apps, you're making her job so much harder, right? And vice versa. So if you're if you're on, I don't know if you're on you don't even have to say other apps besides your own, but if there is, let's say her name is Anna's been waiting her whole life to find you, and she's on Hinge, she's on The League, she's maybe on From, right? She's on all these dating apps and you're not on them. It's like, it's just, you're making her life so much harder.
My pecker is just waiting.
You're a pecker.
Yeah. Jaydi, I completely agree with that. I guess what I'm saying, right, like Hinge, still to this day, even with First Rounds on Me, I'm a huge advocate of Hinge, right?
Yeah,
like if
Hinge is a better one for sure.
Like if someone tells me like, do you recommend any apps? I'm like, yeah, Hinge is great. Like if you're not going to use my app, I would use Hinge. I think specifically Tinder, was the first to market. So they had all the users. They don't care if you connect, right? And I think you don't hear a lot of stories of, oh, I met someone on Tinder. You hear a lot of stories of Tinder is a fuckboy app, because it is, right?
It is
Bumble
more so for sure.
And Hinge is more very common to say, oh, I met my husband or wife on Hinge, because I think it's very likely. So I want to be clear, like just specifically
So you're
Tinder.
talking about just Tinder. Got it.
Just Tinder.
So it definitely ebbs and flows. Like there was a big chunk of time when they were the first ones on the market where everyone was meeting their partner on Tinder. Now it's Hinge, and soon it's going to be From, right?
Yeah, I hope so.
That's the goal. But yeah.
Oh,
go ahead.
sorry.
No, go ahead. Please.
But going back to your question, tips for people that are, was it tips for people on apps or like in the
Or-
dating
For
world?
In real life,
For security.
Yeah,
How
just
do they
safety
stay-
mostly for women. I would say safety, like just like
For safety.
yeah, because go with your gut is a great one.
Yeah.
I mean, but it's easier said than done.
My
Sure.
my advice regarding safety is take your time, because I think the people run into problems when they go out on one date. They're like, oh my gosh, we closed down the restaurant and then we took a walk and it turned into an overnight date. And we, it was like the most intense experience ever. And I think I found my soulmate. And the problem with that is you don't know anything about that person. Yeah. Just because you spent 24 hours with them doesn't mean you know a thing about them. You know what they're telling you, right? So until you actually have met someone's friends and family, and maybe it doesn't have to be that long, but you definitely need to spend a good amount of time with someone to get to know them. And I think anyone who says that something was love at first sight, what they really mean is there was the potential for love at first sight, but you can't actually be in love with someone who you don't know. Like, it's a wonderful premise, but maybe it's lust at first sight, or it's the promise of love at first sight,
or the future. You see that you build this future, and
anyone who says like, "Oh, my husband and I, like it was just love at first sight," I guarantee you, there's a decent chance that person felt love at first sight with other people previously. It's just this was the time it worked out, so they could say it was love at first sight, right? But it doesn't mean that it necessarily was. It just that was the one that worked out. So there are a lot of people that just get really excited really quickly. And then, yes, they build this future in their head with a person that they don't know. And then that's a way to stay safe, right? Don't do that. Just there's no harm ever in just giving it a little bit of time to breathe and to get to know someone. That's going to be the same person there at the end of the day. You could still fall in love with them as well. That's actually brings me to, when can I open this?
Right now, 10 minutes ago.
I've been drinking it this whole time.
Me too.
Oh yeah, me too. Well, I'll say this. So, okay.
I'm like, when can it's my refrigerated coconut water, and I've been
now it's probably
bursting
warm,
at the seams.
So yeah, we usually do our segment, first round's on me. So first round is on us.
Thanks.
And you went with the coconut water here, right?
But you have to say it's Harmless Harvest. I don't work for this company, but you have to say it's Harmless Harvest coconut water because it's just superior coconut water. So I want people to know I'm drinking superior coconut water.
It's straight out of a coconut, it's like, right?
I think it tastes better than that. But yeah, it's because straight out of a coconut is going to be like room temperature.
True.
Right? So this is that taste, but cold. So it's perfect.
And Lauren, I had to go to Orange County to get that.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry. In this weather. Oh, what is it? Well, it wasn't exactly what I asked for, but you know what? That's okay because I said something similar was okay. So it's pop-in bottle mocha cold brew oat milk latte plus adaptogens. Your daily latte with an adaptogen. Boom! So apparently, I really like it. This is better than a
pecker.
Yeah.
But I have no idea. So apparently, I made him go 3 places for a drink I know nothing about because I can't even pronounce one.
Well, we're happy to do it. And cheers. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having us.
I think it's bad luck to cheers with water, but
it is very bad luck.
Says that all the time.
Glass. I'm not doing it.
But that canceled it out. So water.
Why are your glass? You drank it already, or you just?
I've been sipping on it the whole time.
Have you not noticed?
That they've been sipping on.
She's been in the zone.
Me too.
She's been in the podcast zone.
No.
But I will say.
I've been so consumed with wondering when I could open mine.
We'll have at it. Chug it
but
if you want.
Also, you guys have to try this. We had this conversation previously,
and I'm going to reuse my cup for Lauren.
Perfect. Thank you.
This is going to be the first. Thank you.
I don't have a cup to reuse.
We're going to have to fix that because you must try this before I drink it.
Why doesn't he just go like this?
Steve's so
tall.
So
I'll bring something up.
Would you like some too?
While we chat. So this is gonna be the first time in podcast history where I bring up Jaydi before Joe. Because Joe, please correct me if you know these stats, but I think he recently said something like it takes like 20 hours for someone to become like an acquaintance and 40 hours for someone to become. Have you heard that stat?
No, maybe not. Was this
Sorry,
on his last
Wait, who
Sorry.
is Jaydi?
Oh,
I know who he is,
Should
but
I
I
not
missed.
know?
You should
Should
know, but
should I know?
You should know, but I missed
in
what
the
you
dating
said.
sector, you need to know Jaydi.
But that's what I'm here for. That's why
There you
there's
go,
two
the
of
yin
us.
and the yang.
Well, yeah. So I don't know the stats, but basically, this is going off your point about spending time to get to know somebody versus immediately saying you're in love with the person. He said something like studies show it takes like 20 hours for someone to become like kind of like an acquaintance and 40 hours for someone to become a friend. Like this is time together, like real time together, and like 100 hours to fall in love with somebody. So I think there's actual science that backs up. Yeah, there's actual science that backs up that type of claim. So I think it's very important to like you said, actually have to get to know somebody. Because I've talked about my list of qualities I look for in somebody, and I recently added one, and I don't remember if I heard this on a podcast or how it came up, but how somebody handles stress, right? Because if someone just falls apart the second something, the slightest bit bad happens or something major happens, like I would prefer if someone was like composed and like didn't completely melt down. So that's like something I slid into my list very recently. And my point is you don't know that until you spend time with somebody outside of
Yeah,
like
you
a
have
first
to
Can
be
date.
you
able to
give
handle
someone
conflict.
some grace though? I'm not projecting.
I think like that's why a great second date is doing an escape room or something where you see people under, like that.
No, I
No,
love
I
that.
just-
There's
I just-
so much thought put into it, but I love that. It's
But is seeing someone under not pressure, but like
let's put our date in
decision-making.
a stressful situation.
I know it's yeah. Like
How do you react in
How
this
about
situation?
how about a fake mugging?
oh my God.
That's
let's really go for it. If we're gonna do it, let's
So
do
wait,
it.
this is really good, by the way.
Yeah, I
But-
liked it. I enjoyed it.
Okay.
But
Yeah, I think I sent mine before you did, so maybe. But thank you.
also
Yeah,
getting
wait,
to know. Go ahead.
Sorry, I feel like I keep interrupting. Wait, so Steve, have you been with somebody who would break down under pressure and now it's a trigger?
No, not a trigger. No, nothing like that. But like, especially if it's like look, if someone's like parent dies or something serious happens, like yeah, you can be super stressed and sad, obviously. But like if
If
you melt
somebody
down
couldn't
about,
find
like,
their bra on the way to a podcast
Yeah.
and they had a meltdown, that would not.
not if they were pregnant.
would.
If they were pregnant, that would be fine.
Hey, that was also how many years into a marriage?
My husband was very helpful. I was like, "Where are my glasses?" And he did help me find them.
Yeah, I was not projecting.
But no, definitely knowing that you handle conflict in a way that the two of you can talk through it together and all of that, it is really, really important. But that being said, I do a lot of coaching on that subject, and there are people that I think kind of what you were saying about the escape room, there is sort of this tendency to almost want to fabricate drama because you're so concerned about that point that you might accidentally create conflict that doesn't need to exist. An escape room is a fun way to do it. If the woman you're dating is the kind of person who would get, riled up by that, maybe they're not competitive, I don't know. But you have to be careful because there are people who I think, they're like, well, maybe I should generate conflict. Or there are people who just feed off of intensity very early on because they mistake it for passion. And I think we were talking about that recently too. Like it is important, I think, to try to remain conflict free in the early stages of dating. So yes, you do need to be able to resolve conflict well together, but also try to not
I'm not going
create
to start
it
anything.
because
I'm certainly not going to start anything.
But
No,
yes,
but that's
it's a good point.
Yeah. Do you have something?
I was going to say, going back to what we kind of were talking about moving too fast. I think on apps it happens even before you meet somebody where if you talk to them for like 2 weeks, right, you're building up the perfect person, right? You're like, oh my God, this guy's so funny. He cares about me. When I meet him, I'm going to marry him. And that's all through text, which is so much worse. And you're going to meet this guy who could be a really good guy, but you've already put him on this huge pedestal that no matter who he is, he's going to let you down in a way because you're creating this false narrative.
Absolutely, yeah.
So this is kind of something we always ask people, but from like your perspective in terms of matchmaking, right? Are there certain things like, you need good energy, people need to be attracted, but what are the things that like really, the characteristics that really are good indicators if people are going to potentially match together? Like what do you really look for when you match people?
As we match people or whether or not once they're dating, it has...
Both. Let's go with both. So like initial matching first and then...
Well, we have slightly different approaches. So, we talk it all out always, and oftentimes we land on the same person. It actually happens more often than not that we're excited about the same person. But yeah, you mentioned like Lauren is very like, I know they're saying this, but I feel like this is what's better for them. And I'm definitely a little bit more like, but, this person doesn't want a Christmas tree, or that one's allergic to dogs and they have a dog. Like, I'm like also factoring a lot of that in, and we sort of cross-reference, like, where are we leaning in our gut, but also is there anything disqualifying about what our gut is telling us? And there's also, I try very hard to, if a client comes to us, and I think a lot of people have trouble differentiating deal breakers and preferences. So they'll come to us and they're like, I will not date someone who is under 5'10". I will not date someone who has a receding hairline, right? And it is on us to say, okay, well, we're going to try. And I do like to try to honor, someone's preferences. But if it is a preference and not a deal breaker, which I don't consider those deal breakers, then that's something that if Lauren has like a gut feeling or I have a gut feeling or we both together, we'll definitely, nudge the client to overlook some of that.
Well, there are also so many instances where somebody we know either through the service or not, will tell us, I can't date someone who is atheist. And then they end up engaged to an atheist. Or I can't date somebody who isn't Jewish. And then they marry someone who isn't Jewish. So,
And do those usually work out in the long term, or are they signed back
yeah,
up?
for the
3 years
most
later?
part,
Okay.
they do.
I think about half the people we work with, because we do exit surveys with people. We actually are probably due for another round soon, but we do exit surveys like, hey, so we saw you got engaged on your own. We're so happy for you. Can you answer 5 questions about your fiance? And we'll look at our database and the profile that we have on that person and what they said they were looking for at the time. And we'll just like casually be like, so like, how tall are they? Or, just ask questions to get a sense of, is this person, like, do they lead with their sense of humor or intelligence? Just things that the person said was important. I would say half the time the person ends up with the idea that was like completely what they thought they wanted and what we're looking for. And the other half of the time, it's like wildly different, sometimes about things that fundamentally, like we wouldn't even match because we think that, for example, like how you want to raise children, is important. And so I will say that of those 2 batches of people, there's no difference that we've been able to detect, like the many years we've been doing this, in terms of who's happier. So I think what we try to remind people is, yes, you might come to us with this preconceived idea of who you think your future wife is or your future husband. But at the end of the day, like half the people end up with who they envision and half don't. And it's not that one is better off than the other. And we paint the metaphor a lot of, you've heard there's plenty of fish in the sea, right? I went to USC, so there was always hats, like plenty of fish in the USC. Love that expression. It's true, right? But the idea that when you are going out to fish for your match, a lot of people, when they're doing these dating apps and what have you, they think, okay, kind of like ordering off a menu. These are my deal breakers and preferences, and I'm only going to look at the top of the ocean for the highest quality fish that meet that criteria. And then they come to work with us, and sometimes those are the fish we find for them. And then other times there's this idea of, we tell them, hey, how about considering someone who's a little bit more this or less that? And immediately in their minds, they're thinking, oh, those are the worst fish at the bottom of the ocean. We're lowering the net to catch them. We're lowering our standards. But that's not true. Like what we're saying is keep the quality of the fish the same. We only want to give you quality fish at the top of the ocean, but expand the net. You're not catching enough fish right now. So, sometimes, yes, it works. And I don't even remember the original question. But, at the end of the day, sometimes people need to widen the net, and it does not mean lowering your standards. So,
And then in terms of specifics, like I do follow my gut, but I know that's just so amorphous and probably not helpful. But I do like seeing when people have a couple things in common, and it can be they both went to the same college. They're both older siblings. They both
Lauren loves the birth theory.
I think
What's
that
the birth theory?
So
That's her theory.
older siblings end up with each other, and younger siblings end up with each other.
You and Hannah, what are you?
I'm oldest. She's middle.
But did she act like an older sister? Like did she kind of have that function
She's the
more
older
so than
sister.
she's what?
So she's got an older brother, but she's the oldest sister. So
Okay,
she
there
has
you
that
go.
Older sister
Theory
mentality.
still applies. And then like so my husband, older sibling, I'm an older sibling, my sister, younger sibling, husband is younger sibling. And then my husband, his parents were both the oldest sibling to twins. And they said that was like one of the few things their family had in common. But it's just something that you can talk about early on and bond over. So like two people, like family commonalities, like they both come from divorced homes. Like I like
we don't
see.
have that.
Oh, one is divorced, one isn't.
Yeah. Yeah, but I like a lot of things you guys are saying. Especially, I never heard the deal breakers versus preferences. That's a great way to break down what people actually probably don't even think that they know about themselves, right? Like what's a deal breaker and what's a preference.
And sometimes through dating apps or through working with matchmakers or dating coaches, you come to discover like this thing that I thought was a deal breaker it's just a strong preference. I know for me, I talk about this way too much, and I feel like Dave hates it, but
Your husband.
yeah, my husband, Dave. He's someone who I completely would have overlooked on the dating apps, and I am wildly attracted to him.
I love this story.
Yeah, Lauren loves this story. I'm wildly attracted to him. I feel so safe and secure around him, but he's like 5'8" and 3/4. I have to say that part. That's my amended version of the story because sometimes I leave it out and I get shit for it. 5'8" and 3/4. I literally never went on a single date with a guy who was under 5'10". I'm 5'2". It's like I look back and I'm like, oh my God, I was the worst. I think I even, I don't even want to say I had on my dating app. Like if you're under 5'10", like you're not.
Him on a dating app?
Oh no, that's a whole other story.
I was going to ask you to tell Joe that story.
That's a whole other story. Yeah, it's a good one.
But you had guys under 5'10" need not apply.
I took it off at some
Really?
Guys love that, I'm sure.
No,
especially the short kings.
I know. I was in my 20s and I was the worst. I maybe am I still the worst? I was the
He's
worst.
upset. You might need to apologize.
He looks tall. He's seated, but no, my brothers are not 5'10". So at some point I was like, this is not nice. Like I need to remove this, and I took it off.
Did you get angry messages from guys?
Yes, I got so many, and I completely understand why.
A couple weeks ago, some girl was like, I will never date a guy shorter than 6'4", and I was like,
yes, and then
there's not many in the world that are over 6'4". Yeah, he's like one of the only guys.
But that same friend probably
maybe that's who's been searching for him.
You never know. But that same person, like I have friends like that, and then they cry themselves to sleep that they're going to die alone. It's like, do you think maybe you're not looking in the right places or for the right qualities, right? And it's like, yeah, maybe she'll end up with someone tall, but you know, when I was looking on the dating apps, I completely overlooked my own husband, and I don't know what I was thinking. Like he's so cute, and I feel he's so charismatic. He walks into a room, he should be 7 feet if you go by personality. So it's like, you know, for me, that was something that I was one of those people that needed to cast my net wider, and I thought it was a deal breaker for really stupid reasons, and it clearly wasn't because I couldn't be happier. But I think a lot of people also, you know, it comes with age, it comes with confidence, knowing yourself, and, you know, being comfortable with being open to things that you previously weren't. But it does not mean lowering your standards when you're more open in certain areas, because the quality of the person is not lower, right? It's just, it's not what you initially envisioned, but it has nothing to do with, you know, do you have a strong physical connection, a strong emotional connection, a strong intellectual connection? You know, do you handle conflict well together? Do you want to raise kids the same way? It's like none of that. How tall he is has no bearing on 100%. Any of those categories. So.
Yeah, and I think that's why we do force people to meet in person right away, because those things, that energy, those morals, their personality can only really happen in person. And I would even say I'm in your boat as well. Like, Hen is my height pretty much, right? So when I was in my young 20s, I was like, I would never date a girl who's my height, because in heels, I'm going to be short and I'm going to look so emasculated.
What's your height?
I'm 5'11" and 1/8, to be completely honest.
It's important specificity.
So I'm 5'11" and 1/8, and she's like probably 5'10" and a half. So we're like right there. But yeah, she wears heels, and like I don't care, because like I love who she is as a person. And she always gives me shit because, you know, she was like, oh, all your past exes and all the people you used to be attracted to are short brunettes who are like a little more curvy, and she's this tall blonde who's skinny. And I'm like, yeah, same thing. Like I overlooked her because I was like, oh, I want to be this taller guy with this curvy woman, and I did not want that at all. I was attracted to her as a person, and that's what matters the most.
Right. And, you know, I haven't seen a picture of her. I'm sure she's drop dead gorgeous, right? And to you, the most beautiful person that you've ever known, right?
Yeah.
That's how it should be for everyone you're with. And so it's not like, oh, I compromised, you know, she's not as pretty as these other women I've dated. It's like, no, she's just a different type, and you're just as attracted or even more attracted to her, right? So it's definitely has a lot to do with the stories that we tell ourselves, and they're not always true.
Yeah.
Yeah. And their height is not indicative of pecker size. So just to clear the air, you know, just so everyone knows.
I can clarify. I mean, I can confirm that.
Nice.
We do have a pecker. So.
Okay.
What else, Joe? Anything on your mind? I'm looking at my notes here.
Well, so I just wanted to go back to, because now that I'm thinking about how we match people, I think there are two types of people in this world. People who consistently date the same person, like people that want to meet somebody, like their previous exes, and then people that want someone completely different. So that's like a good baseline for us. You want someone like your ex, we could probably find someone like that. But if you're looking for the opposite, we could do that. So it's good to parse out if somebody has a type. And because I would always date like a very similar guy just over and over again. And I think it's to that end, I think it's important to figure out like who likes you back, and we can kind of figure that out by going through a client's history, because it's not just what you like, what's your type, like who is looking for you back. So I think that's also like leaning into
big one. Yeah.
Did you marry that type?
I did, even though Jaydi sometimes says like my type is Jason Momoa, but like who doesn't find him
Yeah, I mean,
attractive?
I mean, I would maybe sleep with Jason Momoa.
Yeah.
See, there you go.
Get
With
in line.
you?
I would not sleep with anyone who's not Dave.
Oh my God.
Nice.
But you know, the whole Jason Momoa thing, Lauren is a confident woman, and it takes a confident woman to seriously to have the
To go up to
realization.
Jason Momoa?
Yes.
At the Grove and ask if he wants to be on your
Oh my
service.
gosh, can I just say he has this gorgeous scar on his eyebrow.
Oh, yeah.
And he got it at a bar fight at Bird's, which is right by my house.
Oh, really?
It could have happened, folks.
Over you. I heard it was
could've-
over you. Yeah.
He is single now.
But
Is he though? It's I feel like it's an on-off situation. Anyway, like I just felt connected to him. I was like, oh my gosh, Bird's, like my local bar.
so she was literally looking for Jason Momoa, but I think
I was not looking. What? I was literally no.
Does your
I was
husband
not,
look like Jason Momoa?
No.
Are there
I
a lot
was
of Jason Momoa types
No.
on Jaydi?
No, I'm
he's
just
very
saying-
cute, but
I'm just saying that when women give us like celebrity crushes, which sometimes I would ask for that, but now I'm like, why would we even ask for that? It's like, we're not like, no, Jason Momoa does not there's only one of those, but like, if you're consistently dating Jason Momoas, I mean, like, great
good
for
for
you.
you.
sure.
Wow.
But this is okay. So this is a long-winded
What were you
way
gonna
of
say?
just saying that it takes a confident person to have the realization of, you know, yes, maybe I'm looking for XYZ, but the most important thing is that person is looking for me back. And if they're not into me, then that's the least attractive thing that someone could be.
Yeah. So I have a question about that specifically. Say someone comes out of a relationship, or they get in a relationship through you guys and then it doesn't work out. Do you tell them like, hey, you should take X amount of time to focus on yourself and grow a little bit before we send you back out there? Or do you kind of just,
It
let
depends. It depends, because some people, you know, it depends how long you're with someone. The relationship I was in before I got married, I grieved that relationship half the time I was in it. Like, I knew in my gut it wasn't right. And by the time I met my husband, I hadn't even been single that long, but mentally, like, I was so ready, you know? And so some of that work had been done, you know, while I was in the previous relationship. So I think it just depends on the situation you're in. So we do definitely check in with people. We will not set up anyone if we think that they're not emotionally ready for their next relationship. And that's either by self-admission, or we set them up and we find out, oh, I guess it was a little too quickly because the person they were with said, you know, he wouldn't shut up about his ex or whatever it is. So
it's a deal breaker for him.
No one should talk.
it should be.
No one should talk about an ex on a first date or even a second date. It's just, I don't know why people do that. That's a hot tip
Yeah,
that I don't
everyone-
even know why I
Keep
have
it
to
light.
express.
For sure. Yeah, I actually have a weird technicality with that too. I always feel like if someone says my ex versus like an ex or someone
Or
I
the
dated,
ex,
I think like because I feel like it's still like possessive and they're still like they still own a part of your brain, and it might be I'm just nitpicking, but like that's what I think.
Is
What
that-
did
is
I
that on
say
your
when I
list?
did I say
that on
my
your
More on my
last
mental list.
relationship
I think
or
you said
the last relationship?
I think you said the ex before I met Dave, which is
Interesting.
Perfect.
Yeah.
There we go.
Totally fine.
It checks out then.
Exactly.
Because
You're on his mental list.
I was like, that's a good way to determine if that's accurate, because I am
Yeah,
way
you
over that.
definitely didn't say my ex because I probably would have registered in my
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that theory.
but yeah, thanks. So tying it back to the app a little bit, this is why like we always, and not even dating, but just in life in general, like we always say like get out and do stuff, right? Because you never know who you're gonna meet, you never know, what's gonna happen. But especially for dating, like you're not gonna probably know like what's your type until you actually meet the type you think is your type and realize it is or isn't. And that only comes from experience, and that only comes from going out. And again, you're not gonna learn through the phone. So I actually kind of like I didn't date much until maybe like a year ago. Then I started going on more dates, and I was like, shit, I have to do this more often because I'm like finding out like what I actually don't want. It's just not in my brain anymore. It's actually real experience. So
yeah, that's
I
super important.
recommend anybody get out there and do it.
all right, I'm excited for some double rapid fire.
Oh yeah, so we
Ooh,
have
what
a
is
couple.
this?
It's just a little bit of a rapid fire. Just to get to know you guys a little better. Okay, favorite drink on a first date. Whoever wants to say it first can just say it.
Vodka soda.
Okay.
The
okay.
Hollywood drink of choice.
Okay.
I don't drink, so cranberry juice.
Okay.
Yeah, I was the one that would always, I would always order. This is supposed to be rapid, right? Should I shut up?
No, you can go ahead. We're just getting to know
No
you.
one ever does it rapid.
I for the longest time would just own it, and for whatever weird reason, on the first date with my husband, I ordered a drink. It wasn't for whatever reason. Well, this is gonna get into how we met, which I feel like is much longer than a rapid fire. But
You can take it if you want, but if you don't want to talk about it, that's fine.
You better
Well,
give
we
me
can-
some
we can
credit
circle
though
back just
when
so
you
you
tell the
can-
story.
But we could circle back to it.
Okay.
So I'll give a version that you don't need that context. But let's just say I already knew about him that he enjoyed a woman preferred a woman who enjoyed a good cocktail or four. And I don't drink. So I was like, it maybe looking back was like kind of deceiving.
That's what you knew about him before you met him?
I knew a lot about him before we
We'll
met.
get there. We'll get
Yeah.
there.
So
Was it an apple martini? Was that the drink that he wanted you to drink?
no, I forget what I ordered. Probably something with gin, because if I were to drink, I prefer something with gin. But I didn't drink it. It just sat there, and I think I just sort of sipped it, and he was none the wiser. And then because me being the like wholesome gem that I am, the car ride home, I think the last thing I said before I almost left the car, although we didn't, because I think we ended up making out, I was like, I have a confession, I don't actually drink. And he was like, well, what did you have on the table the whole time? So like the charade only lasted, for a couple hours, but
I'm sure he appreciated the honesty though.
yeah, hopefully,
Yeah.
although there was like dishonesty that preceded the honesty, but yes,
that's okay.
I came clean.
Okay. Favorite date spot in Los Angeles.
Ooh. Isabel was our first date, and I think that's a really good one.
Yeah.
But I also think experiences are really fun.
Wait,
first dates,
you
too.
mean Yazabel?
Isn't it Isabel?
Isabel.
Isabel.
It's neither of them. It's Isabel.
not
I know it is.
On Fairfax.
YSBAL?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isabel, that's how I say it.
or it's
Never heard it called that.
YSABL.
I haven't heard it called either of these things.
I've been saying it all wrong.
You're
It's
just
like
Isabel? You're
Tarjay.
just-
I say
Well, I know
Y
someone who
Sable.
works there, and she
You say Y
says
Sable?
Isabel.
It's Isabel.
It's Y
He knows
Sable.
somebody.
Okay, well,
He's-
I can't beat that. But I'm just gonna go with the Tarjay Isabel thing.
Okay, yeah.
Well, my last first date was at Bar Cobell. I actually picked the spot, but that's another story. And I like it because it's drink forward, but you can also get apps. So, what were the panty dropper locations?
Yeah, good question. Okay, so Vivian is a great one. At the Avalon Hotel, it's this like.
It's Yivian, I think. Yeah, I think so.
Sure, you don't work in comedy.
It's Vivian.
But yeah, they have free valet parking. They have cabanas out
I
back.
forgot about that.
It's so pretty. It's quiet. It's like the right amount of this feels like a vibe, but also it's not so crowded that you can't hear each other. The roof on Wilshire I don't think exists anymore, but back when we did the tallying, that I think was the number one. So it's sad that that's not there. What are some other really fun ones? Because we determined like in every neighborhood in LA what the spot was.
What
and we
about
would try to-
Mercado?
Mercado. Yeah, we had a husband and wife we set up who met at Mercado, and statistically that has yielded a tremendous number of second dates. But these are the places we're naming are also, some of these are still around, but it's a little dated. Like if we were to redo it now, because we try to send people to nice happening
What's the
spots.
go-to
To have a
spot
good time,
now?
yeah.
So well, that's the thing. So I haven't
But no,
done
I'm saying,
stats.
what is your go-to
Where do we
spot?
send people?
I mean, I like EPLP rooftop now that I can make a reservation for our clients, because we like for our clients to have a seat. So they're not, because we like a bar setting because it's more casual, more fun.
Okay.
But typically you don't have guaranteed seats. So
Right.
I like the rooftop bar vibe of EPLP. And
I
now
was
can make a
literally getting my
resi.
phone's over there, but I was like, I wonder where like all our dates this week where
Yeah.
we're sending them, but that's on my phone.
Well, see, this is interesting. So obviously, this is rapid fire, but we're going on some tangents,
So
which is,
rapid fire.
phenomenal.
We're not good at following
But
directions.
we're big believers, for drink first dates
Mm-hmm.
because on the app you don't really know the person. Like it's a true first date. Whereas you guys, I feel like, are everyone's vetted. You have a really good idea of who they are. So
Mm-hmm.
I feel like dinner if they want to do dinner.
We still
makes
prefer
more
drinks.
Okay, but
Yeah.
the ability to extend it is
Yes,
that okay?
Drinks
that
with
is the
a
key,
chance
yeah.
of. I like to say drinks with a chance of apps.
Okay, cool.
Love that. We have to use that.
Although
Yeah.
you and I, so
You don't like it as much as I do. I think it's
no, it's not
brilliant.
even that. So because we're not corporate in terms of our energy, you know, we're very much like Lauren does things her way, I do things my way, and ultimately, like on a macro level, we do it the same way. But in terms of like the wording, the phrasing we use for clients, it's not always the same. And so when I set up dates, I'm giving away secrets to our clients. When I set up dates, I always tell the guy that I'm setting up drinks and like light apps and drinks. And when I reach out to the woman, I'm like confirming your drinks. So I tell the women that they're going to drinks, and I make sure the guys have an expectation of drinks and apps. So if the woman gets hungry and wants to order, he doesn't feel like she's taking advantage. His expectation was, oh, we should order food together, right? But for her, she's like maybe eating before or after, like she's just going thinking it's casual so that, you know, the guy's not going to get upset that he spent all this money on someone he doesn't like, or it just, I think the dynamic is so much better. Now everyone's going to know, but that's how I do it. But so I like how you do it too. You say drinks with a chance of light ups.
I mean, maybe I'll start doing it more, but sometimes I
mean, you
I'm
got to
gonna
redo
do it
the
every
website.
time.
Throw it on the website.
There we go. Yeah,
we're
so
on the
we'll
we're
add
on
it
the
to our
website
to-do list
as well. But also, like at dinner, I don't want to be like eating a full course meal in front of somebody. Like, what if I forget to chew with my
can't
mouth
escape.
closed?
Yes, and you can't
Well,
order
that too.
spaghetti. Like, there's just
Yeah.
so many things.
Yeah, what if I get dirty? I don't. I'm a very messy eater, apparently.
Okay, favorite podcast.
This one, obviously.
Duh. Second favorite podcast.
Well, we mentioned Neil Strauss earlier. Like, I love, you know, all of his crime podcasts.
Is it To Live and
To Live and Die in LA.
Okay, yeah.
Unexplained by Vox, Pod Save America, The Daily. Yeah, I mean,
News
rapid
based.
fire.
Okay, favorite books.
Rapid fire.
Favorite book.
Favorite book of all time is Catch-22 by Joseph Heller.
Okay.
I work in unscripted. You think I read? Next.
Magazines, Lauren.
Okay,
People,
favorite
Us Weekly.
rom-com.
I do not like rom-coms.
What?
Favorite.
Because my
I'm
life
just
is a
learning this
rom-com.
Okay,
about
Lauren.
her.
Favorite dating reality show.
Rock of Love. And there's never been anything to match it since, so I can't. It's hard for me to watch dating shows now because that is like the ultimate.
Okay.
And I got to work with Bret Michaels and after I was a fan of the show, and that was just like a
You said
dream
favorite
come
dating
true.
show?
For
Is that
you,
your-
we'll do rom-com. I just went
Oh, for me, for
unscripted
rom-com. 'cause
for Lauren.
I
Yeah.
like unscripted too. But
Okay, favorite dating show.
I like Too Hot to Handle.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Last one. Fuck, marry, kill. And you guys hypothetically are single. Entertainment industry, dating, coaching industry, and Jason Momoa.
It all comes back to Jason.
Wait, so entertainment industry, date coaching, and Jason Momoa?
Yeah. Kill one of them.
I would definitely kill Jason Momoa. I don't think that would be Lauren's choice.
Wow.
Oh.
But then you have
I
to.
would. Oh, sorry. I didn't know if we were
kill. No, it's
collectively.
Oh,
okay,
what I
so
would do with Jason Momoa?
Definitely like murder Jason Momoa in his sleep.
Okay.
I would date the entertainment industry, and I would marry date coaching.
Okay.
Matchmaking.
Okay. Cool.
I mean, I wish people could meet on their own. So, but that would put me out of business. But I want people to find love. So I would say I would kill the date coaching matchmaking.
Wow.
Like if that didn't have to
Wow.
exist, people could.
You're
I'm
like, hey,
rethinking
the act
our
is on.
You're doing that.
deleted.
You're doing that for the people, not for Jason Momoa.
Yeah, I want a world where people don't.
So
need
you're
us.
pretty much giving up your career for Jason Momoa.
I
Like,
haven't even gotten to
I
him
told
yet.
you she was literally looking for Jason Momoa. I was
so
not-
wait, so
then-
would you marry or fuck Jason Momoa?
I would probably just fuck. And then I would marry the entertainment industry. I really love what I do.
Great. Awesome. Joe, you got anything else?
No, this has been. I mean, do you want to hear the story?
Oh yeah.
right?
Well, let's finish with the story.
Oh, about how Dave and I met?
Yeah.
how did he
You
originally
have like
come into
5
our-
to 10
okay.
minutes.
Okay, but
Oh,
you're,
okay, it's not
but,
that long
But
of
you
a
need,
story.
Okay.
but please include me in it.
Okay, I'll include Lauren. I'll start with the juicy bit, which is the fact that he was a client of ours and I asked him on a date. But the part that Lauren is involved in is he wouldn't have been a client had Lauren not had a woman.
I did bring him into the service. I had. I also had to convince him a little bit to meet with us.
Yeah, so I would not have met him without your
Yes,
help.
thank you.
But yeah, we set him up 5 times. I was in a relationship when we first did his intake interview, but I remember meeting him. I'm very tunnel vision, so there was no like, oh, I want to hook up with this guy or whatever. Like that never crossed my mind. But I was unhappy in my relationship, and I remember thinking, that's the kind of guy I wish I was with instead. And that sounds terrible because the person that I dated before. Did I say my or the? I'm so into this.
I think you said, I don't know what.
You didn't
definitely
say
didn't say mine. Definitely not
Woo!
mine. Yeah. I think you might have said
winning.
that. The
Okay,
person I think you said the person I dated before.
Sorry. So
Yeah.
so this guy, he's a good dude. It's just he wasn't for me, and I was really unhappy.
You used the word dude. That's telling in itself, but go ahead.
Good or bad? What does it mean? Analyze.
To me, I think if you refer to somebody as he was a good dude,
Yeah.
it's like you're trying to not be mean, but he was like,
No.
he was a good dude.
He's a good person. He wasn't for me.
Okay.
And so I knew that, for a while. And so, I was so invested because we had spent so much time together, whatever, not important. But what is important is when I met my husband, I was like, that's the kind of guy I wish I was with. And so it had been a year and a half since his intake interview. We had set him up 5 times. Then I became single at some point. So like a year and a half after I had had that. And Lauren was at the intake interview, so it's not like anything untoward happened. But at some point when we were setting him up,
Nothing untoward happened. You did stay with. I had to go. I had to go to work.
You told him like, hey,
and
if you really want to get someone stripped down from me right now.
no one's supposed to. I wasn't going to share that part of the story.
but they did stay longer, so I left, and then
That's true. She had to go. We did talk for like an extra few minutes.
It was a powerful extra few one-on-one.
So this is like-
Clearly, because a
reverse
year and a half
entertainment
later.
industry.
What was that?
This is like the reverse of the entertainment industry. You had him there, and you said, "How are you gonna?
Oh yeah.
How are you gonna get someone on this show?"
Yes, exactly. So what ended up happening is a year and a half later, I just, for whatever reason, when I became single, I could not stop thinking about him. And I think part of it too, he was a little bit flirty through email after we set him up, I think.
Yeah, and he was
4
definitely
times.
not flirty with me whatsoever. So.
He said to me through email, and I remember this clearly because I was on vacation with the dude in Hawaii, and I was in my hotel room. I remember getting an email because I'm a workaholic, and I was checking my emails at the Four Seasons, and I remember getting this email of him being like, hey, I don't want you to think that I'm the worst guy, the worst client ever. Like, I really do believe in this process, and I trust you ladies, but these women, he's never made it to even like a second date, I don't think, at the time with any of those 4. And he was like, I'm not that picky. I want someone little and cute like you, but I'm not saying that I'm not that what did he say? Like, you're not that cute, or I'm not that picky. Like, he started like rambling. I forget exactly what it was, but he was like walking it back. But the thing
This
is,
is all in one email.
I was gonna say rambling in
yes.
an email is interesting.
So you asked favorite rom-com, right? Like, this is very rom-com-y. He was rambling in the email, but like, you can edit an email. He did not have to hit the send button, and he sent it. And so
It was like a voice memo or something.
Yeah, right?
right.
And so I heard your bit on a previous podcast about who of you does not like voice memos?
Me.
Yeah, I
If
hate
it's
voice
work
memos
related.
I hate
too.
voice. Yeah,
Especially.
They're
I
the
don't like-
worst. You want time to actually. Anyway, I know this is limited. You have like a few minutes left. So I read this email, and I remember being like a little giddy about it. And I remember thinking how inappropriate it was that I had any sort of reaction to it while I was in this relationship, even though it was like an email with a guy that I met a year and a half prior, and it had been strictly professional. So what I did, being the person I am, is Lauren didn't even realize at the time, but I basically handed him off to her. I was like, I'm in a relationship. I should not be working with this person. I think Lauren should set up his dates. And I forget what I told you, but I was like, can you take point on his dates? Because sometimes
I had no idea. Well,
Yeah.
also because of the 5, 10, and plus rule. I had that probably factored into me not thinking anything of it. But yeah.
Yeah.
What is
so,
the 5? What is it? The 5, 10 plus rule?
Well, she at the time.
the height rule. Sorry,
at the
sorry,
time,
sorry.
she had a height
yeah,
rule.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, and he was shorter, so it like didn't even occur to her that I was really into him. And so when I became single and Lauren had been working with him separate from me, and I think at one point he even emailed me and he was like, "Did you just break up with me over email?" Like, just he's a funny guy or whatever. But he was like, I think self-conscious about the email he sent. I was like, no, I've just been busy. Lauren's setting up your dates. But then when I became single, I kept thinking about him, and I went up to Lauren, and we were like on Sunset somewhere.
Yeah, Sunset. Yeah, near that Estrella.
Yes,
Estrella.
we had just been to Estrella. Is that even still there? I don't know. So Lauren, this is vital to the story, whether or not Estrella still exists. So I had said, look, there's a client that I had never asked out a client before, neither had Lauren. And it's like, is it really, bad if I ask out a client on a date?
Wait. You sabotaged this guy's first 4 dates.
That's what he said.
You definitely did.
That is what he said.
This poor guy's like, listen, I'm not that bad. And you set him up with the worst candidates on purpose, subconsciously.
So that is what he says. In all seriousness, I love the women that I introduced him to, and I actually think they're cooler versions of me. So if anything, I think you can probably attest to that. They are cooler versions of me in some ways.
I'm not going to confirm or deny.
Some of them are friends of Lauren's. So, but I genuinely, I was thinking, I'm in this other relationship. I think I did think he needed someone like me. And I think I really liked those women. And I was like, he needs someone like that. So
you
maybe,
were super monitoring these dates. Like, what went wrong? How could I not?
I was at the table over. So I said to her that, I wanted to set someone up. I wanted to go out on a date with one of the clients. And
I
she
was like, I know who it is.
Right. And she did not. It was a different guy. And so
Actually, was it a different guy?
It was a different guy who had also told me that he thought that she was a hottie as well. A lot of our clients have for dating.
It's an authority figure thing. I'm very convinced because, it's like, your teacher, your matchmaker, whatever. So, but anyway, it wasn't the guy Lauren thought. And I was like, I'm intrigued by that guy. Maybe I should go out with them both. I was like recently single. I'm like, let's do it.
Would you have to pay for the service through Lauren?
I'm waiting for my
She
for
should
my
have
fee.
charged me. Did not. I don't know what you were thinking. Bad business. But yeah.
But we're not good at that. Remember, we already talked about this. We're all about the love.
All about the love. So I ended up emailing him, which I had never asked a guy on. How much time is left?
We're good. We have a couple.
I had never, ever, other than like a Sadie Hawkins dance in high school, I had never asked a guy out on a date in my life. And so I knew, though, who's going to ask out their matchmaker, right? And B, I guess the last season of Frasier, I think that's what happened. But other than that, and Hello Dolly, right? Like, who's going to do that? And so I could tell by your faces you have not seen Hello Dolly. It's a great musical. Check it out. Other than that, who's going to ask out their matchmaker? And then additionally, like, how would he even know I was single? I was afraid to advertise it because I'm supposed to have figured out my love life. I'm helping everyone else with theirs. And so I'm like, okay, I guess this is the one scenario where I'm going to have to not be traditional and ask him out. And also, fuck it. I was in this 3-year relationship with someone I thought I would end up with. And now I'm like, whatever, who cares? If it's like a fling, which isn't even my thing, then great. I'm really into this Dave Kuba guy. Let's see what happens. And I emailed him and I said, how was Coachella? Because I knew he had just been.
I didn't know Coachella was a part of this.
Yes.
That was your opening line?
Yeah, I think I said
that was a good one, Jaydi.
Oh no,
How was Coachella?
I didn't. I actually no. See, I'm not that cool. I didn't say how is Coachella.
Yeah, because that would be totally new to me.
Yeah, that is. I said, how's the single life treating you? And he said, I just got back from Coachella. He said, I think I'm finally over it because he had been like 5 years in a row. It's like, I'm ready for the next chapter of my life. ... But what does this mean? And I wrote, it means you should take me on a date. And then I said, I've never been that bold in my life. Wow. And I said, P.S., I'm aware of how unprofessional this email is. And he wrote back, I'm reporting you to the Better Business Bureau.
Oh, it's on.
And yeah, it was on. And so the other thing that I thought was really cute is, so I said I knew all this stuff about him. It's because I did his intake interview with Lauren and I knew everything he was looking for in a person, which is such a huge unfair advantage that he flagged and he texted me, because we took it off email, and he was like, hey, before our first date, I feel like it's only fair to be on an even playing field. Is it okay if I ask you a few questions? I was like, that's fair, sure. And he copied and pasted our questionnaire.
Smooth. I love it.
Yeah,
What
he's
was
a
the
seasoned
3
drink
drink
guy.
That's funny.
The what?
Why was he known as the 3 drink guy?
No, he had said when we met with him that he wanted a Latina non-Jew who enjoys a good cocktail or 4 And he didn't say the Coachella thing, but I think most women he dates usually like go to music festivals and stuff. I am none of those things. I am Jewish. He's Jewish too, but he did not want to, like, reminded him of family or whatever. I guess I was an exception, but that was the story he told himself. And I just was none of the things. I think his previous girlfriend or fling had been in Mexico. He was filming one of the, it was like he's an unscripted like Lauren. He was like filming I Love Money part whatever in Mexico, had a Mexican fling, and he's like, I want a Latina woman. And so it was all these things. I was none, but I asked him out, and now we just had our kid celebrate her 1-year birthday. So it worked out.
Well, I was gonna say that's kind of a recurring theme. I feel like a lot of people, like, they say when I said fuck it and I didn't care anymore, that's when I found like my husband.
Well,
That's
also
when you're most
like,
confident
yeah,
too.
there's like plenty of stories like that.
yeah, so we partnered with someone right now who's doing 28 dates in 28 days.
Nice.
Right? And then our last guest, Gabby.
Gabby, we know her.
You
Gabby
said is
Conti.
doing, but we love Gabby. So Gabby, we can say because we're in her book. She was a client of ours.
Yeah, so she had done
Yeah,
X amount
yeah.
of dates and X amount of days and met her husband.
Yeah.
after
Sorry, I
the
thought you
last
said past
day.
tense. So, but yeah.
So she met her husband on the last or the day after she did all of her dates. So I guess
Exactly.
it works.
Yeah,
We
there's
love
something
Gabby.
about those
I didn't know
last
she was
dates.
on.
Yeah, she was
Oh,
great.
that's awesome.
Yeah, we
I'll
had a
have
good
to
time,
listen. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's all we got. So
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah, so
appreciate you
nice
guys
meeting
coming
you
on. Yeah, this
both.
has been awesome.
And
Yeah.